Good day to all newcomers and already ardent fans of the MU Online universe. Bless Universe is speaking, one of the most experienced, popular and stable projects of the MU Online universe. We continue our series of guides, and to be more specific, I'm talking about training videos for each class. The previous videos were dedicated to BK and Elf. I recommend you to watch them if you haven't decided on your class yet. Today's guide will cover a very unusual character, his basics, and the most basic and common things about Magic Gladiator. As before, I do not promise you all the details, so if we miss something, feel free to add everything in the comments and help new players and more experienced ones. Briefly about the class. MG is one of the few classes in our game that feels comfortable at all stages of the game. He is one of the two available special classes that are not open from the very beginning and require level 150 of any other character on the account to open it. MG gets more stats per level and per resets than basic classes such as BK, Elf and Soulmaster. According to the lore of the game, he is a genius who mastered both the art of magic and the art of melee combat. He is a hybrid class, the one having several main characteristics at once, strength and energy, giving him damage. MG is one of the most mobile classes in the game and the only one who is not able to buff his allies directly. I think we can talk briefly for a long time, so let's move on to details. So, you chose MG. It means you like variability, active play, you want a warrior, but you are too lazy to level up, and more, you are without a helmet. Like a cool guy. Okay, I'm kidding. Okay, I'm not. That is really cool. As I already said, MG is really the only class that does not wear helmet, which is in part causes some inconvenience, but not as significant as it might seem at the first sight. This has its own advantages. For example, you need to collect one less item for full set, which is why you need to spend fewer resources. In addition, the MG set bonus is slightly higher than others, which compensates for this gap. As awaits everyone, leveling up, collecting items and of course completing quests, for MG all of the above feels very comfortable, which I have repeated more than once. Believe me, it's a very pleasant fact, especially on the low-rate servers. Let's talk about stats. The MG gets 7 stats per level. Strength and energy are the main stats for MG that adds physical, and in case of the energy, both physical and magical damage. But on our server, the MG also gets physical damage from vitality and agility stat, which means he can be fully called a universal warrior. The MG's magical damage increases both from energy and vitality and strength, and also the amount of mana. You can read more about it on the website, I'll leave the link in the description. The MG also gets a very decent amount of defense, and on our servers from 2 stats, both agility and vitality, which helps him to take a hit. The MG feels very comfortable at all stages of the game, both early and late. He got both strong range attacks and the ability to quickly close in on the enemy, delivering lightning-fast, deadly physical attacks. At the leveling stage, the Gladiator is able to use Soulmaster's magic, such as Evil Spirit, to deal damage in a large radius around himself, providing himself with a convenient and mostly importantly fast leveling. A large number of free stats allow you to occupy more advantageous spots with stronger monsters to get ahead of others in the race of levels and resets. In addition, MG as a special class has an advantage in movement. He has access to significantly earlier movements to higher level locations than ordinary classes, which in the later stages of leveling, with a lower increase in experience, is a very big advantage. As a result, MG is versatile, convenient in leveling, and capable of active fighting. Now let's talk about how to distribute stats for the convenience of leveling, and then we will analyze different variations of PvP stats. As we have already mentioned, the settings of our servers are different, so we will speak more generally. Most often, at the early stages of the game, players use a magic gladiator, which is leveled through energy. Using Soul Master spells, MG feels much more comfortable and spends less energy on leveling. Energy Gladiator in early stages. Uses strength only to carry the items he needs. Agility is kept somewhere around 30% of total stats. Vitality is distributed in the amount up to 5% of total stats. And energy gets all the other free stats for a sufficient amount of mana and magic damage for spells. In the middle game, with strength everything remains the same. Vitality reaches from 5% to 10% of all stats, and since the MG gets less speed for agility than the Soul Master gets, it makes sense to keep agility and energy almost at the same level to balance your DPS on spots. PvP. Also, the Energy Gladiator is used in PvP. This version of the PvP spec is relevant when you use an excellent set, and sometimes even a shield. A high set bonus and survivability allows the Energy Gladiator to maximize his damage from combos and to be tanky enough to take a hit. In this variation, the MG can both keep his distance and be in the front line, weakening the armor of his opponents with the help of the Fire Slash skill, or using the large number of debuffs, as well as using the Soul Master spells. Energy Gladiator is very versatile, as I already said, and can play both for the team and as a mobile killer killing enemy team supports. MG has some of the most powerful and fastest combos in the game, which makes such a build very strong. In the late game, depending on the number of stats you got, the Energy Gladiator distributes them like this. Strength is to carry items and weapons. Stamina is 90% of cases in near of the maximum or maximum amount. Energy should also be close to maximum or maximum. And agility at least for 17 to 20,000 stats. 10% of strength, 25% of agility, 32.5 vitality, 32.5 energy. This ratio of stats can change depending on the number of maximum available stats on the server. Physical Gladiator. This type of gladiator is not as popular at the early stage because it has some limitations. First, the physical gladiator is directly associated with his special runic weapon, with which the gladiator gets the opportunity to use his special attacks, Power Slash and Spiral Slash. Power Slash will be the main ability used both in leveling and in PvP battles for the MG.
And Spiral Slash, the very skill that makes the gladiator a mobile warrior. This ability allows the MG to jump at the enemies from a long distance. It is more difficult for the physical gladiator to level up at the early stages because the main ability does not have such a long range as Evil Spirits and has only one direction. It just hits a cone in front of itself. However, the basic speed of this ability is very high, which allows you to confidently beat small spots of monsters. In the early stages, such a gladiator is usually chosen by those who want to participate in PvP battles from early levels, and who found the gladiator rune weapon earlier than others. A physical gladiator in the early game prioritizes strength and keeps it at the level of 40–50% in order to quickly put on heavy armor and melee weapons, which require a lot of it. Agility is distributed in the amount of 30% of total stats in order to have a pleasant attack speed and defense when fighting stronger monsters. You need a lot of vitality if you still decide to actively participate in battles, so it will depend on your goals. From 5% if you don't plan to actively fight, up to 15 to 20% if you will fight part of the time. We only need energy for a sufficient amount of mana and the work of most of the spells you need. This trend in the distribution of stats will persist for quite a long time in the early and middle stages of the game. Towards to the end of the leveling stage, the priority of the stat changes slightly. Strength is the basis of such a distribution and it's always close or equal to the maximum value. Vitality also occupies a key place and will be close to maximum values. Agility needs an acceptable amount for decent protection, about 20,000 stats. Energy in this case will act either as additional physical damage if there are a lot of stats, or is within the amount required for spells and mana. For example, 32.5% strength, 25% agility, 32.5% vitality, and 10% energy. Let's move on to the necessary items. If the Energy Gladiator is used in PvP with an excellent set to hit combos more painfully and confidently, then the Physical Gladiator needs Ancient set, since he relies more on spamming his abilities and high pure physical damage from strength and other sources. Such a Gladiator will be significantly less durable, but deals much more consistent damage with the help of the power/skill. For example, such sets as Mayhem Hurricane or weaker analogs of Spyro and Hydra Thunderhawk sets, giving such necessary characteristics as double damage and ignored defense rate. Such sets are needed for the Physical Gladiator because of the frequency of his damage from abilities, so that necessary additional options of such sets work more and more often. In the description I will also leave a link where you can view all the ancient sets. The problem will again be the high difficulty of collecting ancient sets of the highest grades such as Mayhem Hurricane, and the extreme initial fragility of the character in it. You will have to spend a lot of resources to sharpen such sets and either find or add plus luck option to them yourself. And also stock up a huge number of ancient harmony stones to get the options you need. It will be either damage decrease to reduce damage to you, or SD ratio for continuous flow of attacks on the enemy. This task will be very difficult to accomplish and very resource intensive, so be prepared for it. For excellent sets that Energy Gladiator use, the priority will be as follows. Damage decrease, as for many will be a basic options to survive longer, to be able to attack enemy supports and fight longer, do more. Max HP will also allow you to live longer. In addition, the Magic Gladiators receive an increase in damage in his combo from the health he got, so it takes the second place. Max Mana will be a very useful option for the Energy Gladiator to increase a maximum amount of mana, and it also increases the damage from the combo. Reflect damage will be a good addition to your set and your damage because the Gladiator is quite capable of taking a hit, especially with the first two options collected. In some cases in PvP events, when the Guild Gladiator has not yet caught up with the rest in strength and is not capable to kill strong opponents, his stats are redistributed to create a kind of tank with a shield. Such a Gladiator does not need max mana and will play the role of the debuffer, reducing the defense of enemies, jumping from one to another, increasing the effectiveness of his team. Let's now look at the variations of the Gladiator combo. Recall that a combo is a special attack that is triggered by the correct sequence of 3 abilities and passes through the enemy's armor. one of the variations of the combo in close combat: Spiral Slash, Flame Strike, Power Slash. If pressed correctly, we will see and hear a clap and double damage to the enemy. And one of the variations of the combo if you need to keep the distance: Ice, Gigantic Storm, Power Slash. The damage of the combo of the MG depends on almost everything: strength, energy, mana, and maximum amount of HP. In fact, there are more variations, and for those who are interested in the details, I will leave the link in the description. So, bottom line, the Gladiator is one of the most comfortable classes at all stages of the game, and his gameplay can be varied and active. It is easy for him to raise level on resets. It is a little easier to collect basic excellent sets because he doesn't need helm, and his damage is very good. And without his debuff on armor, many bosses and events are very difficult to pass. Disadvantages: we can say that at the late stage of the game, the Gladiator is very dependent on the items. If basic sets are not difficult to find, then collected and high-grade ancient set, sharpening it and edit and options of harmony is extremely difficult. Gladiator is worthy and interesting class that I can safely recommend to you. Friends, thank you for watching to the very end. You are the best. If we were able to help you in any way, we will be glad to see your like, subscription, and sure to supplement the guide in the comments to help both beginners and old-timers in mastering the character. We really appreciate you and waiting you in Mew Bless universe.